Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is HD StarCraft, and I am back for another StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm broadcast. Sorry I had to restart this replay a little bit later. Something to do with the replay speeding up unnecessarily in the beginning, not too sure why. But we'll go ahead and start at 3 minutes in, and it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss, and this is apparently going to be a Korean versus a Korean. We've got YoungKwangYu as the blue Zerg player down in the bottom right-hand corner, and his opponent is going to be a random Korean guy by these characters. I have no idea what this is, but it is going to be a Protoss versus Zerg, and both of these players are very high masters to grandmasters in Heart of the Swarm. So be prepared for a high-level game of Zerg versus Protoss. If you guys haven't caught that crazy 2v2 that I just got done casting, it's a video prior to this one, please do go ahead and check that out. That one was probably one of the best 2v2s I've casted in a while. It was definitely very strategic. More of a thinking man game than just a crazy macro wars, and I had a great time casting that game. That was very, very fun. So if you guys haven't seen that, actually check out both of the 2v2s so far with Alukanine. They are amazing 2v2 Heart of the Swarm games. So getting right back into 1v1 mode here. This map, I actually don't know the name of this map per se, but it is a pretty big one. It is a 1 versus 1 player map, not a 2v2 or a 4-player spawn. So both players do know where their opponents are at, and you do have interesting expansion locations. Most players opt to go ahead and take the center expansion out here, and then following that up, they'll usually expand up to this area or out to this area if they don't want to deal with those rocks. So we'll see which way. Usually Zerg kind of like to expand up here, and that is actually what YoungKwangYu is going to do as he takes the hatchery up in the top right-hand corner. But I think most Protoss will say, I'm okay with going to just grab the one out here, and I can go ahead and just make buildings to help wall that off. And for now, it looks like, speaking about wall-offs, you obviously see the gateway, the cybernetics core, the forge, everything coming up right here along with the photon cannon. Just playing it safe is the Korean guy, and that is pretty smart. You don't want to let Zerglings let him go ahead and run in early in the game. That can always be very disruptive for a Protoss player. Income right now 30 to 27 as the players are just setting up their economies and setting up their bases. And we'll see what the Korean guy wants to do about YoungKwangYu's hatchery right here. Obviously, it is hidden in the darkness, but it has just been scouted out by that probe. It looks like he's just checking right now to make sure that the Zerg is actually going for a hatchery. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to make sure, he's not two-basing you. And when you do see a third hatchery, even a fourth hatchery too, macro hatch in fact, then you can kind of say, alright, I know what you're up to. You're just going to play macro. Now it's the Korean Zerg player's opportunity, his choice to do what he wants to do. Does he want to go ahead and do the very popular now just 2-base all in? Or does he want to try to keep up and get another Nexus? We'll see. He does have a robotics facility coming down right now. And it looks like another gateway, a couple of gateways. Oh, a lot of gateways coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gateways. Okay. And I think at this moment, usually most Protoss don't add on 6 gateways. Okay. Well, now we know what's going on. I guess the Korean Zerg says, alright, come on, man. You've built 300, 600, 900. You spent 1,200 minerals in hatcheries. Obviously, you don't spend the original, the first initial 300, but you've got 4 hatcheries total. I'm gonna all-in you on 2 bases, and if you can't hold this off, it's GG. And I think that's what Korean guy's gonna do, and I totally agree with that. I think that's a valid strategy. Right now, Protoss versus Zerg for the last couple of months has really been in a state of flux. Many actually people saying that it is the most volcanic, disruptive matchup possible. Things can end very, very quickly in Zerg versus Protoss. Namely because the Protoss typically does a 2-base all-in like this, and Zergs that are too greedy usually get punished. Some Zergs, some of the higher tier Zergs can hold this off, but we'll see if YoungKwangYu's got it within him to stop a 6-gate robo here. This is a very concerted effort to win the game early on. We already have +1 weapons finished as well. It looks like there is going to be a probe going into this position, maybe just to think about expanding possibly if this attack fails, but the Warp Prism is taking the path that is seen by the Overlord. So at this point, YoungKwangYu can just go ahead and bring his queens in position and prevent the Warp Prism from getting in. Now, it's very important not to let all of his Zerg units get caught on the outside, because usually what Protoss do here is try to force field this ramp, and it looks like the sentries are going to get dropped down, but oh, there's already roaches waiting, and uh-oh. this is going to be pretty much stopped pretty easily. Nice job by YoungKwangYu. He even gets the Warp Prism down, as I thought it was going to get out away with maybe just 1 or 2 HP intact, but it was taken down by one last shot by the Queen. And so YoungKwangYu holds on, and really a 6-gate Robo falling flat on its face. Now the Protoss has to say, okay, I guess at this point I'm just gonna make Sentry immortal here because I saw roaches, and you know I don't want to die to a roach attack, so I've got to make Sentry immortal. But yeah, he's got to expand now, so that was pretty brutal. Usually as Protoss, you don't want to get the expansion this late. Typically most Protoss will try to expand after 3 gates in a Robo, 4 gates in a Robo, or you know, maybe even 5 gates in a Robo. But the fact is, he invested so much into gateways, and this, as a result, this Nexus is pretty late. So the Zerg is definitely ahead right now. 129 supply, over 90. Looking at the income, looking at the APM right now, pretty decent for both players. But we do have an attack coming in from YoungKwangYu. Feeling confident here. The 2 Koreans going at it. I'm under the assumption that YoungKwangYu is in fact Korean. Could be Chinese, I don't know. But so far, pretty good from the blue Zerg player. Now just expanding rapidly. Has a double hatchery coming up in the middle of the map, saying, alright, well, now I know that you do have a Nexus coming, and the fact is this Nexus is very late. Your, you know, what the Protoss is thinking right now, this is what YoungKwangYu is thinking about the Protoss is, okay, you're behind, you're going to try to catch up by getting a Nexus and re-macro into this game. If that's the case, guess what? I'm going to take 2 steps ahead, and I'm going to keep ahead of you by getting these hatcheries down, and in fact, with that, it's going to be very hard for the Protoss to get back in this game. You know, that's a 2-base deficit now. In fact, a 3-base deficit now, as YoungKwangYu goes to grab another expansion. So, although the workers are pretty close, 70 to 70, I really like the Zerg player's position right now. Very soon he is going to be maxed out. He did break down those rocks twice here. I guess just to open this up and get his forces up here in case he wants to, you know, he just wants to check to see what's going on there. And he doesn't want to allow the Protoss the option of destroying those rocks later on for defensive purposes. Now it looks like YoungKwangYu thinking about going in. Got a lot of roaches and Zerglings here. Will the Protoss player have enough? Korean guy, can he hold on? Dropping down force fields, not the best. Not terrible either, but not really chopping up the roaches there because there's going to be a retreat as most of the roaches can get out of harm's way. And more force fields coming down, but now the Sentry's starting to run out of energy. There's still a little bit left in the tank, but those roaches pretty much got out of there without really suffering too many deaths. So that was good for the Zerg player once again, because at this stage you don't want to have too much of your supply tied up in roaches. You actually want to throw away a little bit, free up supply for infestors, and go up to hive tech. And actually, so far in this game, I haven't really seen any Heart of the Swarm units yet. Not even a Mothership Core from the Protoss player. That's very interesting. He could definitely make one. I don't know why he hasn't yet, but it almost seems like we were watching a Wings of Liberty right now, because we got Infestors coming out, Fungal Growth, Colossus on the way as well. So at this moment in time, no real Heart of the Swarm units being produced by either side. And I guess I'll also take this moment to say, guys, I don't know why some of my videos lately have been going up and not being in 1080p. They have been going up in 480p. I don't know why. That's something to do with YouTube, on YouTube's end, because I definitely check the video file and it's always in 1080p. And some videos go up and I guess YouTube just doesn't process them properly. So I do apologize about that. I don't know what to do, you know, maybe YouTube can fix their encoding algorithm or something, but definitely not a problem on my end, as I double check the videos every time I upload them. Anyways, going back into this game here, still full on macro, but YoungKwangYu is now maxed. He is about to finish 2-2 as well, and that's actually going to catch him up to the Protoss player's upgrades. I think it's time for him to make a move. You don't want to stay maxed on layer tech units for too long. He does have Infestors as well, and this is going to be it. Will the Korean Zerg be able to make a hold? That's a lot of roaches and Zerglings. And here we go. He does have some Colossus. Guardian Shield coming down. Good force fields. And one Colossus actually being exposed here. He's got to pull this one back. And wow, the Korean guy here just in so much trouble. He's being surrounded by YoungKwangYu from all sides. This is terrible for him. Force fields are the only hope he's got at keeping these roaches at bay, but the force fields are starting to dissipate. Now that Colossus is really just holding his ground. He's got 5 kills, has no shields, but just enough HP to stay alive. Some roaches were able to run to the back, and finally the first Heart of the Swarm unit has made its way on the field. The Mothership Core is here using Photon Overcharge to keep the Nexus alive as well. And I can't believe this, but the Korean Protoss makes a hold, keeps all of his Colossuses alive, has more Colossus coming out, and actually now is in a position to maybe think about counterattacking. Now, of course, YoungKwangYu's just got hatcheries like crazy. He's got 6 hatcheries total. That's not to say the Protoss isn't doing too bad either. He's got a 4th Nexus coming up, but I don't feel like that. That last attack was definitely not good for the Zerg. He threw away a lot of resources. He didn't kill off any of the capital units to Colossus, and overall, not the best attack on his side. I think that has allowed the Korean Protoss to get back in this game. The question is, will he be able to capitalize? We do have another attack coming in here. A lot of Zerglings flooding in. That is Speedlings coming with 2-2. They're pretty devastating with Crack upgrade as well. Wow, this Nexus is going to go down oh so quickly. Roach is also coming in for an attack, and Infestors spawning out Infested Terrans to try to go for this Nexus. There's an attack across the entire edge of the map, and the Nexus did go down. Now Roach is coming in to back up. The Nexus is going to fall. No Photon Overcharge. Nexus goes down, and the Roaches are now on retreat. Actually, the Zerglings are on retreat. I don't know where the Roaches went. Looks like most of them probably died, but that was a great play by the Zerg player. He just took out 2 Nexi, and while he lost a lot of Roaches, any day you can trade Roaches for 2 bases. I think you can take that trade pretty happily. Now the Korean Protoss has to rebuild his Nexus, but this spot is being camped right now by a lot of Zerglings. Some Infestors hiding at the Zonaga Tower. There is no Observer with this army, and if the Mothership Core was here, it could use Revelation or Envision and see what is going on, that there are Infestors there, but right now, she is worried about this attack of Speedlings coming in, and it looks like the Korean Protoss is going to go for a counter of his own. Both players almost seemingly going for a bit of a base trade right now. Could we have another base race on our hands? Now, the front door is under attack, but there's a Mothership Core here. It can overcharge the Nexus. There really isn't that many Zerglings, and this Protoss army is pretty menacing here. I think the Zerg is in a little bit of trouble. He needs to play this carefully. There are Infestors coming up right now. There comes the Infested Terrans. Hey, Merry Christmas, says YoungKwangYu. Here's your gift. And it looks like the Mothership Core able to get an overcharge off on the Nexus before she went down, so that was pretty smart right there. That'll help keep this Nexus alive, but what about this Protoss army just drilling through the hatchery? Actually, right now the Korean Zerg hesitating. He needs to be moving with this army. If you're in a base race, you know, you better be running. You better not be standing still. Probes coming off the line to help defend, and it looks like Probes are going to be able to make a bit of a hold right there. Meanwhile, in the middle of the map, a couple of Roaches meleeing and pylons down. Okay. More Roaches coming in over here, and that Nexus is still overcharged, obviously. It'll be overcharged for about another 20 seconds or so, and the Protoss is just ripping through the main base. So we do have a full-on base trade. We do have Tempest on the way from the Korean Protoss, which is so smart, because in the event that the Zerg is on Hive Tech and he's making Brute Lords, Tempests are the best counter that is available to Protoss right now in Heart of the Swarm. So definitely smart for him to make a couple of Tempests. Also in base trade scenarios, Tempests are amazing. Just they're such a viable unit with their damage and their range. But there we do have Corruptors coming out. These Roaches were able to take out a Nexus. They are punching through the natural, and now they're gonna try to get to the main base, but there are Tempests there, and with the Tempests there, these Roaches cannot hope to stay and fight. It looks like the Protoss army says, all right, our job is done. We killed off the natural, we killed off the main. Did not actually get the Greater Spire or the spawning pool, though. I think that was a mistake. Definitely the Korean Protoss should have taken out those 2 buildings here. Resources lost tab at, well, workers killed. Look at that, 61 drones have been, 61 probes have been killed so far by the Zerg player, and the resources lost tab showing that both players are pretty close right now, so it almost seems like we might have a reset. Obviously, there are a lot of burrowed Roaches here that there needs to be an Observer or a Mothership Core there ASAP, pronto, to take out these Burrowed Roaches. Oh, the Burrowed Roaches actually forcing the cancellation on the Nexus once again. So the Protoss player still doesn't have any bases. He's only got 1 base. That's the main base. He needs to get more expansions down. He cannot allow these Burrowed Roaches to just be the death of him. Gotta get an Observer, gotta get something. And not just to mention Burrowed Roaches, but also the other variety of Burrowed units. The Infestors are underground and underneath this army as well. They're going in for a subterranean attack. And unfortunately, why isn't he making a photon cannon? Just 1 photon cannon would stop this. I'm not entirely sure why. It looks like he is moving out with Stalkers right now, looking to be aggressive. Maybe take out a couple of these hatcheries at the top right-hand side. Does he actually know about them? No. He only knows about 1. And so he definitely needs to try to snipe some of these buildings down, but it looks like, he might find these Brood Lords out of position. He does have Blink. Does he see the Brood Lords? Oh, yes, he does. He should blink them underneath, and he does. He's going to be able to snipe out several Brood Lords here. Beautiful play by the Korean Protoss player, and he's going to get 3 Brood Lord kills here. Meanwhile, the Bird Roaches and Infestors still staying underground. But that was a beautiful play, and I think that was more coincidental than intentional. I think he actually just sent these Stalkers in there at the right moment in time when the Brood Lords were moving out and still above land, and they didn't have any ground backup at all. These Stalkers are going to be so cost effective. They might even take out the remaining 2 Brood Lords, which they will. Unbelievable. And that just let the Protoss right back into this game. I thought he was hanging on by a thread, but now he's tightened his hold and elongated the rope a little bit, but he's got to get some type of detection out here, because this is just getting ridiculous right now. These roaches. Now, what about the Infestors? I don't know where those Infestors went. They might actually have died. Looking at the units tab, I don't see any Infestors alive anymore, so it looks like they did go down. These Stalkers here do see the Brood Lords morphing on the field, but they are not going to be able to remain alive with this many Speedlings, and it looks like the Koreans are now blinking the Stalkers behind the rocks, trying to keep them alive for as long as possible. But those Stalkers are going to go down. Now, it looks like he still hasn't figured out a way to get detection over these roaches, and, you know, I don't see any plans to build a new Nexus. There it is. There is going to be a Nexus coming up, but I almost feel like at this point, our Korean Protoss player should just say, screw it. I'm going to go all in with my army and hope I can win the game with this, because he's just taken entirely too long to rebuild his Nexus and get minerals. Obviously, there's no reason to even actually build a Nexus here. He's mined it out. So maybe at this point, you know, just go all in everything you've got and cross your fingers, because I don't know if he can recover at this point. The Zerg just has too many hatcheries that are fully mining right now. This game is, you know, kind of taken gone off on its own random path. The Zerg has just, you know, lost the main base, lost the natural, but still staying in it. The Protoss losing every base but the main base, but he's also staying in it, and now it looks like he is going to try to rebuild a Nexus, but is it too late? You know, thankfully for Korean Protoss, he did take out YoungKwangYu's Broodlords earlier on, so this Broodlord count could have just been around 10 or so, something ridiculous, but he was able to thin it out, and that's the one reason why he's still staying in this game. Obviously, he's got about 4 Tempests too, so, you know, with the 4 Tempests in play, he might still be able to make a hold against these Broodlords and Corruptors. They do they actually don't do extra damage versus massive. Well, they still do actually versus air. I'm so sorry, guys. Versus ground, they have a different type of attack, but they are still very effective against Broodlords. But they are not, like, they don't get extra damage against Corruptors or Mutas. So if some Corruptors and Mutas more can come out from YoungKwangYu, he might be able to deal with these Tempests pretty easily, but we'll see what happens. The game is kind of slowed down a little bit right now. The Protoss is just trying to distance mine to make ends meet, and finally the Nexus has been completed, but is it, I don't know, is it too little too late? He does have a lot of probes, guys. He's got 49 workers. That's plenty of saturation for one base. But is it going to be enough to, you know, re-macro him back in this game? Look at the bank from the Zerg player. He's got so many hatcheries that he's playing around with 6,000 minerals, but he doesn't have enough gas, so he really can't make anything that's useful. Zerglings are just going to melt almost instantly to Colossus. And so he's trying to actually make Mutas right now, which is very interesting, because I think what he realizes here is, hey, this Protoss army, not very good against Mutas. There isn't that much anti-air here. If I can back up my Broodlords with Mutas, I can actually win this game. So we'll see how that plays out. He's actually attacking right now with the Broodlords that he's morphing in this little hidden area at the bottom. Some Zerglings, oh my god, they meet their demise. And those Colossus just eating them up. Yummy, yummy, they say. And now the Broodlords are going to go down over here to this Nexus. Going to force the cancellation once again. So YoungKwangYu just ravaging Nexus after Nexus, and the Korean Protoss has to come up with a response here. His Mothership Core is actually all the way up at the top right-hand corner. Not too sure what she's doing. She needs to come back home. She's a defensive unit, not an offensive unit. And now, look at this. The Tempests are going to start to go to work on the Broodlords. This is exactly what YoungKwangYu did not want to encounter, but he's got Mutas. He's got a huge flock of Mutas. He comes in, +1 weapon Mutas, and they are going to be able to take out these Tempests. Beautiful play. And that's exactly what he needed to do. Shut down the Tempest, and now the Protoss army. Will he be able to muster up enough anti-air to stop a clump of Mutas and 4 Broodlords? Now he's actually relying on Dark Templar, so now you know he's desperate. He's trying to weasel his way back into this game. Of course, the Dark Shrine doesn't take that long to build anymore. Doesn't cost as much, excuse me. But yeah, there we go. DT's now on the way, so we'll see if those Dark Templar can make a difference at all. Looks like the Protoss army might just be barely big enough to hold off the Mutas, but no, here they come. YoungKwangYu with a massive clump ripping through the sentries. They're not even getting a chance to get Guardian Shield down, which would be very helpful. But all the sentries have fallen. Now the Colossus are in trouble. Tempest after Tempest coming out of the Stargate immediately just to die. And now, will the Dark Templar be enough to actually recover back in this game? The Korean Protoss needs to take out the Greater Spire. He should have done it earlier on with his main force when he had an opportunity to do so. Now it looks like he is going to be able to take it down, but what about the Mutas just running rampant in his main base? He doesn't have anything to hold off Mutalisks. I would almost feel like now you got to make photon cannons. I really don't know what you can do, but these Mutas, I think, might be able to secure YoungKwangYu the game. The Dark Templar, yeah, they've killed off the Greater Spire and they've killed off several hatcheries, but you know, they're not going to win you the game, especially not at this base. Look at the Spine and Spore defense. Good luck with Dark Templar there, bro. Not going to happen. So that is going to be YoungKwangYu's final bastion, his final land of defense. Meanwhile, Mothership Core photon overcharging the Nexus, hoping to hold on here, is the Korean Protoss. He needs to drop down some photon cannons though, I feel like, or try to get, I don't know, maybe more Archons out. I'm not entirely sure what you can do at this point. Is there any answer? It's 73 supply to 115. It's still a very close game supply wise. That Nexus though is going to go down. The Nexus has fallen, and now the Nexus is down. GG calls the Korean Protoss, and YoungKwangYu is victorious. So there it is. Even though he lost almost every hatchery in his main and his natural twice over, actually, and then he lost this one as well to the Dark Templar. The great idea there, just to make Spines and Spores as a defensive last stand, and that makes it very hard for DTs to win the game solo. I mean, how many DTs would it take to blast through this? At least 20, at least. So there it is. But I hope you guys enjoyed. That was a pretty cool game, and always fun to cast new players, especially since I believe YoungKwangYu is Korean, and I do believe this guy is Korean as well. So good to watch some Korean players going at it from time to time. Very high level play there. And if you guys enjoyed, then go ahead and check me out. I'm at YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at HD Starcraft. Send me replays if you guys know anybody playing at a high level of Heart of the Swarm at HDreplays@gmail.com. And for now, this is HD, and I am signing out.